We are listening to the 6th day of evidence of Bob Lambert, and we had a day off from him yesterday, and I'd forgotten quite how difficult it was to follow his evidence. He is in full word salad mode, and we started off with David Barr going over some of the answers that he gave last week and asking for further clarification on certain points from him. Needless to say, we had a great deal of words and not a lot of answers from his responses. He does particularly well, I would say, of as well as saying that he doesn't recall, he also says, I imagine I would have, or I'm sure that I would have, and then proceeds to talk absolute nonsense, which is nothing to do with anything that he can say that he remembers or that happened. He's repeatedly stated he can only be sure of the information that's in the written reports which are in front of us. So yeah, not a lot of extra information. He did say that he had an answer phone, which we were just talking about just now. Does anybody remember the concept of in the late 1980s of having an answer phone yet not having a telephone line? It seems... I remember this. I mean, there are, of course, are pages which would allow you to, get an answer but would not have a conversation. But he wasn't talking about that. He said that he had an answer phone. No idea. He's really been explored the fact that his reporting there's a great deal of questions about one of his reports of August 87, where he talks about 2 secret meetings of a 4-man ALF cell. And he said he was only at one of those meetings, and he's asked who was there. He named Jeff Shepherd and Andrew Clark, and then on the 4th person, he spent 12 minutes, I timed it, he told 12 minutes before he said he couldn't recall who the 4th person was. We had a huge amount of guff from him about there were other people in the squat, that they weren't part of the cell, that he wasn't part of the cell. He's adamant he wasn't, even though there was 4 people in the cell, there was 4 people in the meetings and he was one of them. He's adamant he wasn't a member of the cell, he was there purely in a supportive role. What that support amounted to is very unclear. He says he's useful. He said he was useful at one point. There was a lot of talk about how, he was reliable and they trusted him and that, he was a driver, but nothing about... He rejected the idea in any sense that he was a member of the cell, even though he said the cell had enhanced security precautions, but that he was trusted with the information because he was useful. None of it makes any sense. Do you want to say anything? I'm joined by Heather Mendick, who has been following the evidence as well. What did you make of it?
That was really good summary. You did amazing there. It was better than watching it, because watching it is almost unbearable. Yeah, I mean, that thing about trying to pin down that there was 2 meetings, but he wasn't at one of them, he wasn't the other. But even terrorist cells apparently have supporters who come along. That's something I didn't know about terrorist cells. So obviously, he was just there as kind of moral support. It was unclear. But he pointed out he knew so much detail. So there's enhanced security in this cell, but he knew exactly what was going to happen, all the plans, everything, but he didn't know who was there, and he wasn't a member. It's completely untenable, and this is why David Barr keeps pushing it. He's like, really, you weren't a member? Just to kind of show up the absurdity of what Lambert is doing. But I don't know what the point is sometimes of keeping him on the stand all these spare days. Every single spare bit of time, it's like, let's have Bob Lambert on again. And yet we don't find anything else out. We just... And it's very expensive. I mean, there's loads of lawyers in there charging by the hour, I guess.
There's also the other stuff about CCTV, the disappearing CCTV footage. So yes, there was witness statements from cops at the time saying strangely special branch turned up and were interested, or they're not supposed to be interested in cases, and I couldn't quite follow, but basically nobody ever looked at the CCTV footage before it somehow disappeared. So yeah, there was more evidence on that. They're sort of piling on the evidence.
Yeah.
And the other interesting thing at the start of the day was Lambert had to admit that his claim about this conspiracy against him was partly based on something on the blog, how he...
Harry.
Yeah. And then he said, oh no, I must admit that. He said after about 100 words, I was wrong to make that claim. So basically, his claim that there's a conspiracy, these 6 witnesses who said he did it, at least one of them is now saying, oh, well, no, there isn't any reason for him to make this up. Therefore, he done it.
Yeah. No, it was really telling that. I mean, the whole sort of, the whole thing he based his defence on at the end of Friday just completely fell apart. I mean, the video thing was interesting as well, because we saw the witness statement of the officer who had collected the CCTV footage about how he collected it on the Wednesday, and then on the Thursday he had a special meeting with 5 or 6 plainclothes special branch officers, and he said if this meeting had happened any earlier he wouldn't have collected the footage. They were taking over the investigation. He put the footage into a cage at Scotland Yard, and that nobody viewed it. It was never viewed. There would be a log of it if he had given access to anybody. That didn't happen. And at some point it was destroyed after having not been viewed at all. Bar put it to Lambert, the reason this happened was that he was clearly visible in the Harrow CCTV because he was the person who planted the devices at Harrow. Obviously Lambert rejected this. But
it's just untenable, isn't it? All the stuff is untenable if you didn't do this. Like, it's just too many coincidences. And so many convenient coincidences. So many, like you say, not just coincidences, but there's reports that says special branch who would never take over a criminal investigation under any other circumstances took it over. It has to be intelligence related. It's all ridiculous, and it's all incredibly frustrating because I think he's slowing down.
Oh, he is.
Yeah. I mean, it's like there's sometimes only one word between pauses. I didn't think that.
Yeah, there's also a lot of selective hard of hearing where he's constantly, like, he can hear perfectly well a lot of the time, and then every so often he's, oh, pardon? Sorry, what? Which is, again, it's not believable, it's not credible.
And he gets people's names wrong, which he didn't get wrong before, and suddenly, oh, is this right? It's so annoying. And I just think they should end it. I think they should get on with the other lawyers. Say, David Barr, you've had your time. You had over a week with this guy. Give the other people a chance and see what the actual lawyers representing the the non-state participants, the people who are spied on, can try and do.
I mean, judging by how far David Barr has got through the Lever Arch file he has in front of him, I don't think that's going to happen. There's still a great deal of things which Barr clearly wants to question Lambert on. Whether we'll get any straight answers on any of it, I think is very unlikely.
Yeah.
Anyway, we've got to go back in fairly soon. I'll do a longer report at lunchtime. Cheers for joining.